Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to yet another episode of Gentlemen's Club Whiskey. I am your host, Mark Antimate, and in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about 3 Kentucky bourbons from the Maker's Mark brand, which is now owned by the Japanese powerhouse Beam Suntory, which is a company under the parent company Suntory. And wow, how did I even get into this realm of whiskey? Well, that's a little bit of a story, and it all starts with Clubhouse. You know, once I got on the Clubhouse platform, I'm inside of the whiskey and spirits chat rooms on a daily basis, and I can talk for hours and hours about whiskey, anywhere between, it could be 3 to up to 7 hours that I've been found inside of these rooms just talking about whiskey all night. And everybody knows me inside of these whiskey chat rooms on Clubhouse as the knowledgeable guy about Japanese whiskey. But I told them very honestly and frankly and just directly that I don't know that much about bourbons. I mean, you know, I do know the basics of it, like, you know, you do have to use new American oak. It cannot be a recycled cask at all and things like that. It must be like 50% corn is used. But, you know, just aside from these basic things and, you know, the common knowledge about it, which I do know, I just really don't drink bourbon that often. You know, I want to say more Japanese whiskey than anything, even though Scotch is my favorite whiskey of choice. And it's just all due to circumstances with me being a resident in Japan and having access to all these Japanese whiskeys. I'm trying to taste as many unique Japanese whiskeys as possible. And, you know, once I do get off Japanese whiskeys, I do want to get on more Scotch reviews here on the channel. But most of my friends and the people that I talk to in these whiskey rooms on Clubhouse, a majority of them are Americans, and a majority of them all drink bourbons and or American whiskey. And so it's always a talking point. And when they're discussing it and I feel left out of the conversation, I want to be a part of the conversation. So how does one become a part of the conversation? Well, you got to delve into it, drink the same things that they're drinking, whatever they're talking about. The top 10, you got to go out and seek those things, and you got to try them for yourself so that you can develop an opinion. And I could come back to these guys and say, look, I did try this whole range. It really didn't do anything for me, or maybe I found that the one inside of this range was the best amongst the 3. Do you guys agree with me? At least I have some type of dynamic where I can enter the conversation now and voice an opinion and be heard. And so it's very fascinating because I asked them, what is it that I should get? What are the top 10 bourbons and or American whiskeys that are being talked about the most? What are your absolute favorites? And they gave me a list. Let me go ahead and get on my Twitter account because I did put it up on the Gentlemen's Club Whiskey Twitter. I took a picture of how I narrowed it down. So I was inside this chat room for about 3 hours. It was my room. Make sure that you guys join that on Clubhouse. The name of the room is called Whiskey, Wine, and Spirits. That's the one that you have to be a part of. And we have chats every Friday. That's American time, being Eastern, Central, and all that stuff. And if you're in Japan like me, then it's actually Saturday morning for me that I'm doing that show. But every Friday night in the United States. And so I talked to them for about 3 hours. I asked everybody, well, what are the top 10 that I need to get? And they gave me a list of about 20 of them. And so then I had to hone that list down and get that list down to about 10, and then I got that list from 10 to about the 5 best, like aggregated based on everybody's opinions inside the room. So I'm going to go ahead and share that list with you now. I know it's not about this topic, but I just want to share that real quick so that you guys know where I'm coming from. So this is in no particular order now. This is just the 5 mixed up. So they told me to either get the Eagle Rare or the Buffalo Trace. You know, it comes from the same distiller, and the taste is similar, but it's a little bit different between the two. And what they had told me is that the Eagle Rare is older and the Buffalo Trace is younger. They said definitely go with the Eagle Rare, but if it's not something that's readily available, then get the Buffalo Trace as a substitute. So I count that as one whiskey. And Buffalo Trace is something that's inside of all Japanese supermarkets, but I have yet to come across Eagle Rare. Let me have a sip of water real quick. Been shooting these videos all day, so my throat is a little bit parched. So I can get the Buffalo Trace, but I haven't as of yet. But I'm going to keep my hope for the Eagle Rare, and I might have an idea of where I can find it at. The second whiskey, they told me either get the Old Forester 1920 or the Old Forester 1910. And they said, yes, there are differences between the two. The 1920 is Prohibition style, and the 1910 is old fine whiskey. And so I said, for me, as somebody that likes sweet whiskey, which one is going to be the better of the two? And they said, even though originally they liked the 1920, they said for somebody like me, go ahead and get the 1910 because that one is going to be sweeter and it has brown sugar inside of it. So definitely that's the way for me to go. So I'm going to go ahead and look for the Old Forester, which I did not find, but I will look for it. Number 3, Evan Williams, Bottled in Bond. And let's go ahead and move along to number 4. Number 4, they said preferably get the Woodford Reserve Double Oak is the better of the two. But if you cannot find that, then go ahead and get just the standard basic Woodford Reserve. Again, the Woodford Reserve is like the Eagle Rare and Buffalo Trace situation, whereas I could find Woodford Reserve in all Japanese supermarkets and liquor stores, but it's a lot more difficult to find the Double Oak. But I'm going to keep my hope out and hope up, and hopefully I can find the Double Oak, which has been recommended to me for the sweetness. And finally, they recommended Maker's Mark. And they said probably the best of all of the Maker's Mark is going to be the Private Select. That is going to be the one to get. And they said if you can't get that, then go ahead and get the Maker's Mark 101. So I got 3 Maker's Marks in front of me. I got the standard one, just called Maker's Mark Kentucky Straight Bourbon. I got the Maker's Mark 46, and I got the heralded, but it could vary and be much different depending on who blended it or what staves were used. I got the much talked about Maker's Mark Private Select, and I'm going to tell the story about this one a little bit later inside of this video. So I can find Maker's Mark absolutely everywhere in Japan. The 46 I can almost find everywhere that I can find the Maker's Mark at. This Private Barrel Select is something that's hard to find. It comes and goes, and it just so happens as I was looking for it, it was completely hard to get. So my Private Barrel Select was made from a brand called Eon. Eon is probably the biggest supermarket chain right here in Japan. And it's very large, and these stores are just all throughout the whole country. And I went to the closest Eon supermarket that has a nice liquor section that's closely situated to my house. I didn't find, what is it called? I keep calling it Private Select. Is that right? Private Selection. Yeah, that's right. So I didn't find the Private Selection at the one that was closest to my house, so I went to the next farthest one away. Eon number 2. Then I went to the next farthest one away, Eon 3. Then I went to Eon 4. And within the same day, I visited 4 Eons, didn't find it. The very next day, I said, let me try the 5th one, which is the 5th furthest one out. And sure enough, they still had 2 bottles of this left. So I was very, very, very happy and lucky to get this one. So aside from the one that I got, now they only got one left on the shelf, I guess, within the city that I'm in. And that's really saying something, because the Eon supermarket is the only one that has private selection within Japan. Other supermarkets or liquor stores do not. Very happy to get that. Let me go ahead and open up my iPad where I have all of my notes about the history of Maker's Mark, and I'm going to go ahead and tell that story. Let's just click on that and go all the way up to the top. So, Maker's Mark, introduced in 1959. Maker's Mark is a small batch Kentucky straight bourbon, easily recognizable by its bottleneck and the cap that has been hand dipped in wax. And then when they pick it back up again, they just let it drip until it dries. And, you know, my friend Jay from Clubhouse, the guy that recommended me try Maker's Mark, and he says that it's all very good whiskey. He told me to notice on the label how whiskey's spelled without the E. And I didn't recognize that before he brought it up to my attention, and I looked at it and I was quite shocked. And yeah, they spell it without the E to pay homage to their Scottish roots, the family of Maker's Mark. So this is made by a 6th generation distiller named T. William Bill Samuels Sr. And he's responsible for the juice inside the bottle. And the story goes he disliked his family's 170-year-old recipe so much that he set it afire and started anew. And Bill's wife, Marjorie, nicknamed Margie Samuels, named the whiskey and designed the bottle's unique look. Her design proved so iconic that makers trademarked the dripping tendrils down the side to protect the intellectual legacy of Margie Samuels, who created all the aesthetics for the bottle. And here you'll see that there is a label. This is inspired by the signature marks of pewters and whitesmiths, and Margie decided to put this original mark on the Maker's bottle. On the seal, you'll see a star, and this star is representing Star Hill Farm, where the family lived. The S is for Samuels, the distiller, and the Roman numeral IV signified her husband's status as a 4th generation distiller. And it was later discovered by the son, Bill Jr., that his father was actually a 6th generation distiller, although this seal had never changed its original design. On the standard Maker's Mark, the seal is just embossed on the glass. But if you go ahead and look at the seal on the Maker's Mark 46, this is actually stamped on the wax, as it is stamped on the wax also on the private selection as well. These two are exactly the same bottle, with the labeling and the font being different, and this one has like a sticker label, in which this one doesn't. But the bottles are exactly the same, and the wax seals is exactly the same. Go ahead and put that gently down. So where did I leave off? Yeah, the square shape was inspired by Margie's collection of 19th century cognac bottles, as the wax was typically something that had sealed these bottles. And I'm going to go ahead and read Maker's Mark's, their tasting notes for this one. I'm going to go ahead and do my reviews inside of subsequent videos after this one. But this video, I just wanted to give the introduction. So, for their tasting notes, they said the aroma is woody oak, caramel, vanilla, and wheat prevail in the nose. The taste is sweet and balanced with caramel, vanilla, and fruity essences. And it has a smooth and subtle finish. And this one comes in at 45% ABV, which is 90 proof. This is a 70 milliliter bottle, but I'm sure the one inside the United States is probably 75 milliliters. The 46, this one is 94 proof or 47% alcohol. And this one does come inside of American size, 750 milliliter size bottle. Private Selection also comes inside of a 750 milliliter size bottle. And this one is 109.9 proof, which is, let's just say 110 proof. And it's about 55% ABV. And this one was bottled in June 2020 by Eon Liquor and Maker's Mark. The stave profile, it uses 3 baked American pure staves, 2 seared French cuvee staves, 1 Maker's Mark 46 stave, 2 roasted French mocha staves, and 2 toasted French spice staves. So very unique, lots of variety inside of there. I expect this one to be very complex and flavorful, and I'm definitely going to try this one last. And then after I'm done reviewing all 3 of them individually, then I'm going to do a taste test comparison between the 3. But first, you always got to start off with the original. So in the next video, we're going to do the review over the standard Maker's Mark. Wow, I thank you guys for sticking with me for this long. Salute to you wherever you may be out in the world. Make sure that you drink responsibly, gentlemen. And as always, you know what to do. Keep it classy.